All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Swamp Rose, and today I'm continuing my podcast where I cover the case against Bryan Kohberger, otherwise known as the Idaho4 case. And I hope you're all having a great day. And this is my new mic. Please don't make fun of me. I know it's a little different than the ones that everyone is using, but I got mine at the drugstore this morning. So I hope you can hear me loud and clear. And I have a reaction video for you today. And one of the reasons why I'm a little bit late getting started is because I was waiting for permission from the owner of this video before I played it. And I have quite a few things to break down. And so I'm just going to get right into it. Oh, let me make sure my mic is working. Thank you. I think it's kind of fancy. Probably should hold it to my mouth. Oh, good. I'm glad you're here, Translucent, because you're one of the moderators for Vapor Diamond. And what we're talking about today is a story that I didn't think had much staying power here on YouTube, but it appears that this story is not going away. And so I do have thoughts on it. I was kind of avoiding the subject, but I kind of got called out by Vapor Diamonds, and she wants me to answer a few questions, and I appreciate anyone who wants to hear my opinion. So we're just going to get right into it. And I'm going to start by sharing her video. And while I'm playing this, I'm going to type a banner up so that you can visit her channel and see what she has to say for herself. Let me minimize myself on here. So this video is addressing my avoidance of the subject of whether there were salacious activities going on amongst the residents of the 1122 King Road home. Now, I have reasons why I don't think there were salacious activities, but like I said, there's a lot of controversy going on YouTube right now, and I'm going to try to address some of those things. So we'll just start by playing. We'll start by playing Vapor's video, and we'll just break it down as we go.
This one is especially for Swamp Rose, and I apologize for being such a horrible person.
Hold on, let me take the have it sped up.
With that being said, Swamp Rose is so funny because
I want to start just to explain the introduction to this. Vapor Diamonds and I have been Vapor Diamonds has been having conversations with me about something else. So that's what the beginning of this video is about. But she gets right into it and gets into all of the evidence that she's collected that might support this theory.
As the other day in your live stream, you said salacious, and I don't know if you had been reading your comments or if I had been blocked, but I typed salacious in before you said that. And you and I must have been thinking on the same lane. And so salacious means that it's like a sexual kind of raunchy nature.
I'm going to pause right there because Vapor Diamonds is calling me out 100%. That is definitely a word I use. You may have typed it in the chat, but you are definitely not blocked. I went and checked this morning to see if anyone else had blocked you because I do have a lot of mods I don't talk to on a daily basis. But you definitely weren't blocked, but I did use that terminology. And I think this is going to be the first place where we pause because we should all get on the same page. What does salacious mean? I mean, it's a pretty specific definition here. So it's appealing to or stimulating sexual desire, characterized by indicating sexual desire or lustful. And as a noun, having an excessive interest in sex, erotic, bally, or lewd, lustful, glossy, indecent, obscene. So, I mean, there's not like a ton of different ways to define that word. So the reason we were using that word is because it was brought up in court, which is a really good point by Vapor Diamond.
But obviously, I just showed you Ann Taylor said salacious. So I want to talk about the salaciousness of this case. And I'm not sure why it's so taboo to talk about OnlyFans or State Line Showgirls or Pornhub or working in the porn industry at even 18 years old. I'm not.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there. So I don't think it's taboo to talk about these things. I actually have a totally different take on this. I believe that it's very old fashioned to talk about these types of things. To me, whatever was going on, whatever the girls didn't identify as and didn't want us to know publicly, we're deciding to air if we want to go down this road. Let's just say there was something there. Where is everybody's interest in what was going on in the other bedrooms? Or is it only because we're suggesting that that people have suggested some sort of LGBTQ connection? I don't know what's going on, but I don't know why we focus on one bedroom or the other. That's my first take on it. I don't think I'm trying to be taboo. I think I'm trying to be respectful of what people do in their bedrooms. That I don't think it's anyone's business. But let's continue, because I know this plays into motive for some people.
Not so sure why the brotheling and the basically the liberation of sex workers is not seen in this case. We can see that people had to get kind of creative when COVID was still going on in 2021. The kids were in school, so there were a lot of changes that they had to face, and a lot of changes that even the Stickergate kids, Seamus and Rory Wilson, wrote about the goings on of COVID and how that affected their school. But Bryan Kohberger, okay, now I don't care what anybody says about this man. I think he could get women. I think there was a dark side to Bryan, and I'm going to say that. When I talk about salaciousness, I'm talking about some BDSM kind of shit, okay? Something about you go to the dark side with the psyche in your mind. If you read some of the stuff that supposedly Bryan Kohberger wrote about, if you look into the psychology of that, and I'm sure Catherine Ramsland can probably confirm that anybody thinking to these extremes would have a salacious nature in the thoughts about the thought crimes they're having about sexual nature.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So when I used the term salacious previously, I was misusing the term. I was talking about a sexual deviant nature to the crimes, which there isn't any evidence of. But I'm pushing back a little bit on Vapor Diamonds on this comment about BK. I have not seen those dark writings that allude to anything like that. I have not seen evidence of any of that. And I try to cover very balanced and objectively and cover both sides of the story. And like I said, I just haven't seen that evidence in BK's case. And again, I want to also bring up the fact that this is a really sensitive subject, and I will put a banner up that, that this is simply speculation. But the reason I'm doing this, just to reiterate, is because there are reasons why I don't think this story we should keep giving. I don't think this story necessarily should be getting our attention. And I think there's a couple things I can point out which might put this story to rest.
Now, we have Kaylee, and there's Catherine Ramsland. Shout out to Catherine Ramsland. But look at, okay, John Waters. Now, look at his films are salacious as all hell. Salacious. The Crow movie, a salacious crime. His wife got raped and gang raped by a bunch of people, breaking up into the apartment. He came back from the dead to get vengeance. What happened, they did to his wife up in this town on the Devil's Night, you see? So what I'm saying, the salaciousness of a case pertains to what they are having to see in some of this evidence. So when I start showing salacious, this is the Squeaky Fromm and the other, what's her name? I forget her name right now, from the Manson family, but these are some salacious pictures. There's Ann Taylor looking good, and she said salacious, folks. Let's look at it again. Okay, you see I got the arrow pointing to it. Salacious. The salacious nature of the alleged crimes. It says, due to the extensive inflammatory free.
This is how she's defining it. And again, I don't know how I'm taking down the banner just so you can see her screen. I don't know how you separate the words. I think it would boil down to maybe somebody who has experience in criminal psychology, like a forensic psychologist. Do they use the word salacious, like Ann Taylor did in open court, to describe things that aren't of a sexual nature? Like some of the comments I'm getting here are basically saying, you know, here, let me find this one from Heather Fitzgerald. Not everyone that's pretty and gets murdered has some sort of sexual secret. I thought that was a good comment. And I won't rule out BK may have being a voyeur. And this was a huge topic when I first started covering this case, was that there is an escalation period for people who commit these crimes. And one of those always includes voyeurism of some sort if we were categorizing this. But we don't have any record of BK stalking or surveying the girls or the house. We do have the pings, but we have in open court them, Bill Thompson negating the word stalking with Edelman. So it's a very difficult subject. And we brought up, while we're on this, you know, I kind of might want to pause here just because I think it's a good place, because this video gets into a lot of details. Maybe we should bring up some of the counter arguments right here. And the first one I want to present to you are the social media warrants. And don't worry, Vapor Diamond, we're going to play your whole video. But I made this video a while back. Honestly, I could not go find the search warrants in time for this video. So I'm just going to play you. This is a like 1 minute, 45-second clip. And it basically is somebody breaking down the search warrants. What I want to point out is these are the additional social media search warrants. So this is above and beyond their initial requests. These search warrants do not include any of the sites that Vapor Diamonds just mentioned. So there was, I'm not going to repeat them because I honestly don't want to have video of them coming out of my mouth. But the fact is that none of those, which are included as social media, were not included. Now we'll get into the banking records in a second, but there is no evidence of this. And I just want to remind you guys the extensive extra social media warrants that were issued in this case. Let's listen. A breakdown of the search warrant. And I'm just going to read you some of these things. More importantly, I'm going to actually skip down. It basically is all the social media and different things from UPS to the forensic lab. But if you go down to number 5, you've got the Tinder accounts for information relating to Kaylee from the 1st of January of 2021, 20 profiles linked to her account from 11/3/2022. All right. So if I go down to this first comment here, one of the things that the first people first noted is lots of focus on Kaylee here. 20 plus accounts connected to Tinder, her liked matches. So in comparison, to point out is the difference in the amount of social media activity that was actually warranted. So when it comes to Xana and Ethan, they had roughly 30 some odd warrants pertaining to their social media. And then when it came to Maddie, she had around 20. But when it came to Kaylee, she had over 40. By the way, this isn't my voice. This is a crime time in a second. This lady.
But what about that guy that kept insisting that Bryan Kohberger, you guys bought his knife from him for $350? What about him? Okay. You know, so we're coming to the end of that. So, you know, when we look at this, to be honest with you, Kaylee by far, you know, I shouldn't say by far, but Kaylee definitely has the most things requested. So I've always felt that it was Kaylee. There was part of me that could never decide if it was Kaylee or Madison, usually going to Kaylee. But I'm going to say that I'm going to definitely say that Kaylee was she probably went on that Tinder date with that guy that treated her disrespectfully or whatever was said about that. I'd have to go back and remember what was said there.
So the reason I wanted to play It's a Crime Shame is another thing that came up is they asked for nearly 20 different profiles pertaining to Tinder. Now, what's not on the internet anymore is back in the day when this case first came out, it was said that Kaylee went on a Tinder date and it was so bad that she knew she wasn't going to go on a second date with him. The person allegedly called her a bitch and was calling women bitches and whores. And according to what we just heard from Annie Elise, all right, and I'm going to stop it there just because I wanted to emphasize the social media warrants, because we're going through the additional social media warrants on top of the initial searches. So where are the warrants for these salacious, now I'm using the word correctly, websites? You can't get around that aspect of this question. Trust me, I'm going to take it further in defense, but this is my biggest part. Now, this doesn't include banking transactions. And I will admit, and I have had very smart people bring up arguments to me regarding the December 2nd extended search warrants. And I will get into that. But again, this is my biggest red flag with this story. There is absolutely nothing to support it in the extended social media warrants. And I don't know how this could be an actual legitimate story if they didn't even request search warrants for that. Let's bring Vapor Diamonds back up and finish her video. I have to stop sharing my screen. I really appreciate you guys showing up. We have a nice live chat today, and I am starring your comments. We're going to get to all of them.
Trial publicity, allegations, but there's a salacious nature to the crimes. That means with the evidence that they are having, and Taylor, there's the Pope. See, I don't know if he approves of this salacious activity in these sins, but when you are blessing the people with some facts in court and saying this is a salacious natured case, and you got Kathy Mabbitt sitting up there saying that there was no evidence of SA. Well, that don't mean anything, because the salacious nature of the case could pertain to some of this digital forensics. Look at this car that's parked by these girls. Look at it here. Was that the car on the camera on King Queen Road? Look at this. This is a salacious picture. Look at this. Look at this salacious. So when you're talking about a salacious nature, a sultry, salacious, raunchy, kind of like this. You see this Fight Club, right? And so that's why I put this stuff in here, just to give you a little bit more of this raunchy style. These are the guys from Banfield. Remember I told you I would show you. That's number 8. There's the other guy. There's number 9. I know who all these guys are, by the way. I got all their names. There's the guys on the roof with Saeed and Caden Young. Here you have just the short clips from the grub truck footage. A friend of mine made these for me, and I absolutely love him for that, because I've kept these clips, and I really like these clips. Now, a lot of these kids get into the salacious natured orientation in their mind because they're into gaming. They have sexy things going on with these new AI images of women. Salacious can be proven in Enon Harsh's Facebook profile and some of his social medias about what he's into. And I got those screenshots, and believe me, that guy is salacious as all hell. Okay, we got a bunch of YouTubers with salacious language, including myself. So If Ann Taylor is using the word salacious for this case, then it would provide the assumption of a sexual, deviant nature, something that not everybody would find acceptable, right? So does that exclude, I mean, these kids aren't innocent. They're not just drinking Shirley Temples with no alcohol. They're drinking Borg in a gallon and having to cope with that. And sometimes you could do that with some methamphetamine, make you get out of your whatever. But
all right, so just a couple of things I want to say after playing that clip. Number one, for everybody watching, if you are saying that there's a connection between these websites and the crime, then what you're saying is there's a connection between these victims and BK. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is the person who's been arrested, and saying that there's a connection, doesn't that kind of imply stalking? And haven't we heard in open court that there was no following on social media? We heard the victim's father come out recently to a world-class journalist, make a public statement on behalf of his family saying, Mr. blah, 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 which we're not going to bring up right now, could you please provide evidence to Bill Thompson as to your connection to Maddie? Because the prosecution is working very hard to form a connection, which they have not been able to form yet. So please provide that. That was a quote as recently as, I think it was 4 months ago. So there is no connection to BK and the victims. So for people to think that this fits into some sort of motive or some sort of part of the crime that includes BK, I want you to remember that we had Edelman on the stand and the prosecutor defining that there was no stalking, and we brought out the definition of stalking in the state of Idaho on this live stream, and that includes surveillance. And there was no social media connection. I just want to remind everyone of that. Ann Taylor has said on the open stand, no connection to the victims. And I also want to address, before we keep going, is that we just mentioned alcohol, and now we're getting into explicit drugs. These kids, according to the people who were closest to them, said they were not involved in that. We have not seen toxicology reports showing any of that. So this is all, again, as the banner at the bottom says, speculation. So I just want to make sure I'm saying that before we come on, because this is not meant in any disrespect to the victims. We're just speculating here. Or Vapor Diamonds.
But Kathy Mabbitt looked like she lied, and it sounded like she lied. And this whole scene about covering and tearing down this house, when we know damn well there was wires hanging out from here and this surveillance set up in this house from years ago. And we know damn well that there is at least...
Translucent, though, I cover the case against Bryan Kohberger, so I have to talk about him, especially in relation to this. But if what you're saying is we want to explore this theory saying Bryan had nothing to do with the crime, then I guess we could, but I didn't realize that this story excludes Bryan. I don't know. Anyway, just my thoughts. I'll keep going and shut up now.
A 90% a possibility that there was a cellar or a bunker that they covered up, that these kids somehow had.
Okay, I'm going to stop here again. I actually have to say I'm about 50-50 whether there might have been some sort of bunker up on the side of the house. And I'm not suggesting it's like a nefarious bunker or something like that, or anything more than a root cellar. But I've seen some really cool analysis by Criminal Confidential, and I would at least entertain the theory that there is something in the sidewall of that house. But I will entertain that theory definitely with Vapor Diamond. I don't know about it being a bad place, just think it could definitely be there.
Had access to. Now you could see somebody that had a salacious natured mind could have been a peeping Tom. Somebody could have crawled up on the balcony and already been up in the third floor. That's why he didn't have to go upstairs, because he might have been already there. You got these weird You had even a door underneath the stairs. This little door that you see it open. That's another entry. What if there's stairs going down into something? Okay, you hear a bunch of kids when the noise complaints. You hear the noise complaints with all these kids yelling. You don't know where the hell that's coming from. If it was coming from the house, it would seem to be a little bit louder, but it seemed like it's coming from somewhere else. Then you have this washroom we really haven't seen. A lot of these things we really have not seen inside the house. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure if this is all for real, the way the whole house was even set up. I don't even know at this point because we have been lied to so fucking much. And so many things are questionable about the way shit really went down and what is what. I don't need to be arguing with this house no more because it's already torn down and they did a mistake. They made a mistake. And even the parents said something about this mistake, right? But we know that there was some salacious shit going on. If you got cocaine, the additions of cocaine, possible steroids.
I haven't not heard about the cocaine connection. Definitely the steroid connection. I've been dying to do this for a while. Vapor Diamonds actually has had a story that I thought was so interesting. She did this, I would say, maybe like in the springtime on one of her old channels that's no longer around. But it was, you know what, it might have been longer than that. It might have been maybe like 7 or 8 months ago. But anyway, it was after the demolition. And Vapor Diamond was breaking down some of the footage. And she actually went and got photographs of surveillance equipment, and she compared them to some of the surveillance equipment during demo and some of the wiring. And although I know nothing about that subject, I want to say I've never forgot that live stream, and I bring it up quite frequently. I just never knew if I could mention Vapor Diamond's name or not. But so I do think this is an interesting take she has on this. Oh my gosh, I spelled your name wrong. I'll fix that in 2 seconds, Vapor Diamonds. I'm sorry, audience. I wasn't paying attention.
Anabolic steroids, which we know that's going on because of the sports.
I gotta edit.
And these girls that we're taking them to, you know, I'm sorry, but it's really obvious. We have steroids, drinking, cocaine, methamphetamines, Molly. Do you think that there was not salacious activity? I could see orgies going on because that's what they fucking do. Do you think like they
Okay. All right. So there's another aspect I'd like to bring up because the video, you know, obviously gets a little controversial here. When I think about the implications that people say about these 4 victims, or at least the 4 female victims that I have covered for over a year, I can tell you right now, from everything I've ever seen about these girls, there is nothing that would make me think that they would ever be involved in having a living on one of these websites. Now, I'm not saying that people are prudes or they don't experiment or try things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's no way that healthy young girls whose parents are paying for university, sorority, particularly in young Kaylee's case, her father paying for university, sorority, helping her get her new job, helping her with a down payment on their car. I could never think that this person knowingly was allowing their daughter to work for such a website. And then you look at pictures of Maddie, and there's just this young, healthy girl. People with options don't do this for a living. Show me one person that works on an OnlyFans website who has a happy, healthy, balanced relationship with a committed partner. It doesn't happen. People don't want to do that. Women with options don't do this for a living. And these girls had options. And I just want to, I'm speaking from my heart on this. You know, I'm not being a guilter. I'm not being a pro-bigger. I'm being an objective human looking at these 3 girls, and they just aren't candidates, particularly Santa. You guys, come on. But Vapor Diamonds, I'm not dismissing you. I'm just speaking my heart. I just want, because I'm airing this on my live stream, I have to make sure I'm saying, I'm calling it like I see it.
They got orgies going on in high school, for God's sakes. You think college kids aren't doing that? Are people like back in the not even the 50s, like even people were in the 50s were doing this shit, but they were covering it up. So why are people so afraid to talk about salacious details? Because this is what's getting people in trouble. And what's getting people addicted to pornography and everything else because they cannot live out their fantasies. We're going to get into the white elantras. We're going to get into what could have happened with this whole white elantra thing, but that's a salacious matter in itself because of the girl that pre-owned the car that was supposedly stolen. You see, so all of this is just, it's like a Viking jumping off the cliff and Feds use Snapchat.
Okay. Before I continue with any more of my analysis, which the next part I'm getting into is the December 2nd search warrant, because this is why I believe this story keeps coming back up, is because of some of the terminology and some of the things that we're, hold on a second. Okay, sorry, because of some of the terminology and some of what's been redacted in that warrant. It is an extended search warrant, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But before we do, I just want to make sure I'm saying, hold on, let me back this up. So
of this random and I
was hoping I could get a picture of ML in here. The first thing I want to say is thank you to Vapor Diamonds for making this video, giving this food for thought, and asking me these questions, because nobody's really ever asked me why I don't cover this, or why I don't find this to be a story. I'm sorry, I had a coughing fit. Nobody's really asked me why I'm not extensively covering this on my channel. And I do appreciate you asking me the question. So please, I'm going to put the banner up one last time before I get into the search warrants. Please go give Vapor Diamonds a visit and give the video a like. And what I'll do is I'll link this specific video in the description and in the comments. So if you have thoughts on it, you can go tell her what you think, because I'm sure some of you disagree with me. You know, we don't sit in an echo chamber. We want to know what other people think. But with that said, and I do have a few comments here I'm going to be displaying and discussing in a second. Hold on. Yeah, there's some really good comments. And I mean, there is a back and forth about how they're using the term salacious in court. That is a debate in here. Let me go ahead and we're going to talk about the search warrants a little bit. So I did 2 videos recently, and they were in response to an alleged soundbite that was circulating that apparently people were claiming that Steve Gonzalez said that Kaylee had $100,000 in a bank account. And he didn't say bank account, he said in the bank. And many of us were speculating on this because we had seen, let me pull this up for you. We had seen this letter from Mr. Gonzalez to attorney Andrew D. Myers here on YouTube. And here at the bottom, when he's breaking down the bank accounts, he had mentioned retirement accounts here. So some of us thought, well, maybe Kaylee had a retirement or a trust. Anyway, people were speculating on this. I will say, since I made these videos, that has been debunked. The family came out to a channel called, it looks so funny today, Forensic Frenzy, and made a statement saying that that's not a true story. However, I had already made 2 videos on it. So let's take a look at what I had broke down. So this is the December 2nd search warrant, just to set this up. And let me take Vapor Diamonds down. In this search warrant, what's very fascinating is that, and I should give credit, Too Fast for Fleas was my mod who pointed this out to me. In these search warrants, these are extended search warrants for the Department of Labor. Now, why is that significant? Well, because that isn't like your paycheck. I mean, that's banking records for a company. What could they be looking for? And let's get right into the search warrant, and I'll pause it as we go. Because I broke it down in this video.
Okay, so let's get right into it. So I had never seen this document until maybe a month or two ago, but this is the redacted search warrant that was issued on December 2nd by the Moscow Police Department for some of the financial activities of the 4 victims and 3 redacted names. But if we look right here, okay, so this search warrant asks for a lot more detailed financial records, but if you look right here, it says that they obtained an amended search warrant from the Department of Labor on the 28th of November of 2022.
Okay, so why could that be significant, you guys? Well, I mean, it's a little bit mysterious. So they got the initial search warrant for Department of Labor for whatever they were looking for, but they wanted more. And again, this is very unlikely pertaining to one girl's paycheck. What were they looking for? Now, I made comments regarding Maddie and Kaylee and Xana, but I didn't make comments regarding anyone else in that household. Let's keep going.
And just to add another layer of mystery to all of the things that I'm showing you right now, if we scroll down on this, you're going to see the 4 names of the victims listed right here. And then when we go down here, we see 3 people listed and their names redacted. That's interesting. And just to make sure I'm being absolutely clear, all of that was financial records. Those redacted 3 redacted names were.
And I want to point out too, because one of the mistakes that I made was I said, oh, Department of Labor. Well, BK was in a union. They probably requested that for his union job. But remember, this was December 2nd. So allegedly they had no indication that BK was a suspect, or they probably wouldn't have probable cause for that search warrant. And let's just say BK is one of those redacted names. How would that change things? Well, it would mean that the IGG information, that tip came in much earlier than we thought, because right now it appears that it would change things slightly, but I don't think this has anything to do with BK. So this would be people living in the house or close to them.
For financial records. And as we go deeper into this warrant, we can see that it's not just simply for account balances. They are looking for all of the transactions that went through these accounts, who made them, even checks. They're looking for the front and the back of checks. They're looking for safety deposit boxes. This is just a blanket request for all financial transactions, things like 1099s, any wire transfers, any online banking, anything. It looks like they were looking for anything, but it does perplex me when I see the 3 redacted names. Are those the 2 surviving roommates and the one other one on the lease? I don't know.
Now, when I say that they're looking for everything, obviously you can't just put a warrant out and look for everything. When I say that, what I'm talking about is they're looking for the identities of the people that have made transactions in their bank accounts. Now, whatever that is, or whatever reasoning they have behind that, what I would just stress to you is, before we start thinking this has to do with some of those shady websites we mentioned, remember what isn't in the social media warrants.
And then when people talk about the Range Rover, I just want to remind everyone that was a used car. It was just new to Kaylee. The car was a $17,000 car in terms of the loan. But what makes this a little more perplexing when we hear Kaylee might have had $100,000 in a bank account is she asked for help from her family and friends for the $7,500 down payment on that car. So it's kind of interesting, because if she did have $100,000 in a bank account, it wasn't liquidable. So let me show you something else. Actually, before I show you that, there is something that I want to clear up right now that I hear people misreporting on all the time, which was that Kaylee came home primarily to show Maddie her Range Rover, or came to the 1122 King Road home. That is actually not true. I recently, with my own ears, heard in an interview Christy Gonzalez said Kaylee returned to the house because she had finals on Monday and Tuesday. So just want to clear that up real quick.
I'm going to show you a list here that Steve Gonzalez sent to Andrew D. Myers. I'm going to stop there. I will say though, one thing I will add to that is where we talk about, I don't know why the camera is like so glitchy. It keeps like freezing me in these weird positions. I saw 12 Gauge post a letter from Samantha, Kaylee's half sister. And in that letter, it does suggest that Kaylee came home to show her Range Rover to Maddie. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's why people are saying that, is because that was a letter introduced to the public that we do reference. But I was talking in that video, I was talking about an interview I literally heard within 24 hours of Christy saying that there were finals on Monday and Tuesday that week. Now, whether she came home to spend the night for a different reason, I don't know. You guys have some incredible comments that I really, really want to get to, though. I haven't even gotten to the bottom. I just want to get to these first few starred comments here. So Mish Girl says, remember, Steve G stated that things would come out that were not nice. So he said it, and Mish Girl, I think, is paraphrasing, but I think he said it along the lines of, how did he say it? Gross, I think it was. I don't know. And I don't know what he meant. And I think that might boil down to, you know, they were young adults. But when it comes, and they may have done wild things, but to say that they were making a living doing these things is a far different cry from experimenting or trying something. These websites, I don't know if you, again, I stress, just go look at some of Candace Owens' interviews with OnlyFans models and the struggles they have in life. People with choices don't do this for a living. People with options don't. People who have almost done with their bachelor's degree, unless if they have options, they're not going to do this for a living. It's not a good lifestyle. It's not fun and glamorous in any way, shape, or form. And I know that from the videos that I've seen of people interviewing people who work on those websites. Tarot says, my retired detective friends that says that he thinks that an attempted SA that never happened, but was interrupted and most likely one of the victims. I have heard that too. And I think that also is why people bring up the subject that both girls were in the same bed. Could somebody have been coming to Maddie's room and been surprised by what they found? And then Translucent says, damn, why else would AT use that word? I don't know. And I don't know if that's common for people to use that when they're talking about extreme offenders, but I would tend to think, Translucent, you're right. Why would somebody use a word that is so clearly defined as sexual in nature? I do think a victim had a knife, this is from Tarot, and tried to attack the killer, which caused the whole crime to go crazy. Dean A says, salacious is often used to describe nasty gossip. And I use the term all the time. I question myself, have I been misusing this term for a while? Alex says, salacious used by a lawyer saying allegations imply a motive that involves sexual in nature, which is definitely going to make the public more angry, whether true or not. Strategic language. And then can we stop talking about Bryan? And it's true, you know, I definitely took it at an angle, but I couldn't tell the story without saying you're deviating from Bryan being the suspect if you say that this website had something to do connecting the victims, because this website is not involved in the case. And we know that he wasn't following or stalking them. So saying that this is involved or part of this case is basically saying Bryan's not involved because he has no connection through these things. And then Robert with True Crime Podcast says, hey, Swamp Bros, just popped in to show support and let you know I'm walking away from YouTube and my channel for a while. I will be back in time when mentally ready. Love you all. Oh my gosh. Well, that's breaking news. This is my streaming buddy, Robert, with True Crime Podcast. And I will send you an email and check in with you, buddy. I hope everything's okay. I was streaming with Robert until about 11 last night, but unfortunately he didn't post the video. I wanted to rewatch it this morning. I hope everything's okay. So please check in and give Robert some support, you guys. He could use it. Translucent says, Ann Taylor, Bryan's defense lawyer, would use lustful vocabulary when she's defending Bryan. She's talking about Steve or someone else. Let's all agree Kaylee did nothing wrong. Let's get past that. Let's ask why is the defense excluding sex? She knows something more, like trafficking. Heather says, a fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah owing to its extensive inflammatory pretrial publicity, allegations made by Mr. Kohberger to the media, that will be, oh, wait a second, that's the whole quote. Damn. It's going to say salacious in nature. Lady Speedwell said, some women enjoy exhibitionism. They don't all do it just for money, in my opinion. That is very, very true. But exhibitionism is a real thing. And there are definitely people who, I agree with you. There are people who are just exhibitionists. But to say that two girls who weren't exhibitionists growing up all of a sudden developed a preference for exhibitionism in private in the couple of following years leaving home doesn't seem to fit the typical stereotype. Second to that, if it were something that developed so quickly, I think it would be, if it were true, which I don't see any evidence. I mean, I don't know if the right term would be exhibitionism or sexual addiction, because we're not talking about someone at a nudist colony. We're talking about someone doing, when you talk about these websites, you're talking about much more than that. And so, and then Translucent is talking about the $100,000, I believe. No, it hasn't been debunked. Christie said it in an interview with News Nation. Translucent, I would be really interested if you could post a link to that in your community page. Could some visitor with salacious intent have taped inside 1122 and blackmail them to hire a fixer? I want to say, I think after we've all watched this P. Diddy case, we know how that works. And obviously this is practice with the elites. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Tonka says, law enforcement obviously found something that piqued their interest into the financials of the victims. Exactly. And that's why Too Fast was saying that the search warrants were the extended search warrants. Why did they need more information from the Department of Labor? This isn't just a bank account. So this is why this story has staying power. It's because we see that. And if you know another reason in your watching, we want to know your opinion. This is not an echo chamber. We're here to learn. We're here to conversate. And we're trying to be objective. So if you're seeing something we're not, please drop it in the chat. Oh, is this group not on the same page with the whole rug trafficking arrest? It seems pretty slam dunk. But if they filmed a car driving by, why is there no film of people going in a door-to-door car? I mean, I'm not saying, I can't say it's a slam dunk because I haven't seen the connections yet. And I'm not discounting the work of Pavarotti. I haven't studied it enough, but I will say people I really love and respect are entertaining that theory. It's not where I'm at, but I'm open to hearing whatever anyone has to say. BK never worked in Idaho. Meanie says yes. Oh, there's somebody here. Next year we will. You guys are birthday buddies. Okay, so Julie Brown says, I lived in an apartment complex in LA with many influencers and many OFans girls. They came from many different backgrounds, but all presented as classy and sweet and had a world on a string. That is wonderful. And I'm glad you found a group of very healthy O-Girls fans. They are the anomaly. You can't do it for a living. Now, somebody who maybe does it on the side, plays around with it, that's a far different thing than somebody who's doing it for a living. But that's not a life for anyone. And it's not a way to find a companion either. So to think that somebody's going to have a healthy lifestyle and do that for a living is contrary to what we understand about psychology. Pretty sure the finances of most murder victims are typically something that's looked at. 100%. It does seem like they're going much deeper. Generally, yes. But this is extensive, Heather Fitzgerald. It is. Salty, you like 7-Up. I like Shirley Temples. Too Fast says, family and friends helped with the down payment. What friends are going to give money to put on a vehicle? Yeah, I know. I was curious about that too. Oh, God, where did I get the exact specifications? Oh, I think I got them from somebody. Look, I don't have a confirmed source on this, but what was said is that essentially Kaylee did a lot of babysitting for her family members, and that down payment was partially paid for by her child care and different odd jobs she did for family members. So, and we all saw that Steve G came out and announced on his LinkedIn that he was a multimillionaire. So that would explain why people did have expendable income to help Kaylee with those extra jobs to pay for the car. But again, I could be completely mistaken, and I'm just disclosing my sources. I don't have anything confirmed. And then why would DM want Kaylee to stay there one night before going to Texas? She wasn't, as far as I know, staying there one night. Yes, she came back early, and that was to be the +1 for DM. And there's all sorts of speculation about other reasons she came back. But the primary reason was she had to take her exams on Monday and then the second half of the day on Tuesday. Tinsel says, has there been any mention of the 1122 household using crypto? You know what? I'll look into that. I'll go back over this December 2nd search warrant and see if I can find any crypto companies in there. I think that warrant, let me go back. It was, well, let's just play.
On the 28th of November of 2022. And just to add another layer of mystery to all of the things that I'm showing you right now, if we scroll down on this, you're going to see the 4 names of the victims listed right here. And then when we go down here, we see 3 people listed and their names redacted. That's interesting.
Waiting for it. It's down here.
And just to make sure I'm being absolutely clear, all of that was financial records. Those 3 redacted names were for financial records. And as we go deeper into this warrant, we can see that it's not just simply for account balances.
What I was pausing, I wanted to see if they actually named the entity, and I'll go back through it at another time so I don't give you guys a lot of dead air, and I will see if they actually list out the entities. But great question. Mini says, it was my decision to say something to Victorine, gave me an opportunity to send you well wishes without thinking about myself. Hold on. You guys were getting pretty close to the end of this live stream. Not 22. Oh, are we talking about the white Elantra? Where did that come up? There definitely wasn't 22,000 white Elantras that they were breaking down. Okay. They had to do all they could to leave the investigation somewhere. And I totally agree with that. So had they not had a suspect, let's just say the IGG wasn't back by December 2nd. By all accounts, it wasn't. Well, and I'm going by that because I don't know how long a grand jury takes to convene, but we know that, let's see, if we went on to the PCA, I want to say it was the 23rd that they first mentioned that they looked for Bryan Kohberger's phone number amongst the data. But yeah, at this time when they have no leads, they could have just been digging as deep as they could. Yeah, me too. Okay, Robert says, hi, Swamp Bros. I'm trying to let you know I am walking away from YouTube and my channel for a while. I will be back when I'm mentally ready. Robert, I don't think you saw, but we did display your comment earlier, and we're all praying for you. And just to reiterate, you guys, if you could just go show my buddy, my streaming friend, Robert, some support, maybe go give him a like and a thumbs up. He's had a really stressful couple of weeks, and yeah, we just want him to know that we support him, please. Heather says, it sounded like he was talking about wounds and the family hearing details, but that's my take on what he said, which is my opinion. So that is going back to the statement, okay, that Steve G says when we find out the details of this crime, that we're going to think that maybe some of these things were gross, or I think that was the terminology he used. And so Heather's saying she thinks that he's referencing the wounds. I'm going to just change this picture really quick. Hold on. Something a little bit more friendly. Swamp, why DM want Kaylee to stay? Oh, wait, that night before we already got to that one. Who has finals before Thanksgiving? I think I misspoke on the type of test. It was maybe a midterm or something, but she had a test on Monday and a test on Tuesday, and it could have been, I don't know for a fact, but wasn't she leaving school early to go to Texas? Heather says, a fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah County owing to the extensive inflammatory pretrial publicity allegations made by Bryan Kohberger to the public by the media. This was going back to why Anne used the word salacious. I'm so far behind on the comments. I'm really sorry, you guys. I like it. It's also a speaker. I know it's the color of like a dirty ballet slipper. Anyway, I think that's, oh wait, hold on. Financial records for ECMM, XK, KG, and 3 redacted. I'm betting it's the 2 roommates, BNF, and the last one on the list who did not live there. If the house was the target, wouldn't you be seeking financials from everybody that resided in the home? We do not know the full details of the autopsies, and that's for sure. And that's what it came back is to the, when I was pausing Vapor Diamonds about the drug use, it's because we just don't have supporting evidence either way. And just out of respect, I don't want to speculate on that. I have had no indication that the girls had any involvement in that. Oh, I just got a text message from someone. I'm sorry to be distracted. We don't know anything about the autopsies. In my opinion, they're not releasing more details because then even more people would question the timeline and the assailant theory. Absolutely. I think at this point, Peaches says, I feel like I've made this about their daughters only, and I feel like they're trying to profit. Okay. I don't feel the same way, and I just don't feel like going there. Hey, thank you. Elle says, I love the Mike Swamp Bros. LOL. I always got one because it's so cute. Mine would be flung all over the place, though. I almost sent a picture to Twiz when I bought it. Yeah. So Mish Girl says, I'm wondering if SG's comment about something coming that would be controversial is his ties to crypto. I don't know. I don't know how those ties would play into being announced in court, but I don't know. And there's a couple people who are, you know, I wanted to respond to this video because I thought it was a legitimate question that somebody was bringing up, and people wanted to know what I had to say on this. I wanted to give my best shot to saying why this story really has no arms or legs. But I don't know what you think, and I'd love to know your opinions below. I'm not trying to stir up the pot by bringing up this subject. I'm just trying to not ignore something that all of my viewers seem to be bringing up and asking me about. So I hope you liked my take on it. Again, my firm position is I think these girls had nothing to do with it, but I'm not speaking about the house or other people that I haven't extensively studied their lives as much as I have the 3 victims. So with that said, I'm going to end the stream. I hope you guys have a great week. And if you're a member, I look forward to seeing you in my Members Only Live tomorrow. So have a great day. Thank you.